up? What's up, guys? It's another episode of the Dad to Dad Show. I'm Winton Yates.
Antoine Harris here, and we are downtown New Orleans, almost downtown, really, at the EMS Center, and we have a really special show this morning because this is all about your children's safety. I'll let Winton Yates introduce our guests.
Yeah, we're talking about the car seat safety and the new safety regulations, this new safety seat laws here in Louisiana. Excuse our backs are going to be to you.
That's true.
But the important thing is our guest right in front of us. Also, real quick, last show, you guys were commenting, you were sending us questions, all that kind of stuff. We couldn't see you, but this time we can see you because Antoine's got it in front of him. So ask questions. If you have questions about safety seats, anything that we're talking about today, ask questions. We'll be able to talk to you about it. Real quick, before we get into it, remember to check out our new sponsor, Dad Snack, a t-shirt company that wants to make all of us dads feel like we're doing a great job. So remember to check them out at dadsnack.com. Remember, on checkout, do dad, the number 2, dad. So dad to dad for 10% off your entire purchase. So now let's get into it. Our guest today is the esteemed Jonathan Fourcade with New Orleans EMS. He's the Public Information Officer. We really appreciate you being with us this morning to talk about
Happy
this.
to be here, and I'm happy to have all of our EMS followers as well logging into Dad to follow along this morning.
So that means you can't mess up.
Right.
But let's get right to it. Starting, I believe it was this month, new child seat laws went into effect, and just talk to us a little bit about that.
Right. So beginning August 1, these new laws went into effect. And I just want to be clear, the laws are only backing up what our pediatricians have been teaching us since 2011. So everything that we're mentioning in this law is really something that we should have been following to begin with, according to our pediatricians and the rules and regulations on most car seats. So now the state is just backing this up and saying, hey, it's a law. We need to do this because they recognized how important child passenger safety really is.
So what are some of the big changes we should be looking for here in Louisiana? And real quick, these are Louisiana laws. So if you want to check your local laws, please do so. Please do so. So these are for Louisiana. So this will just be for our Louisiana residents.
Well, I think it's going to be different for each family depending on how old their child is. We have a 10-year-old. And the big change for us was he has to remain in the back seat.
Oh, he's not going to like that.
No, he is not happy about that because he just started riding in the front seat with his mom. And according to the law, if you are under 13, in the back seat if possible.
So let's start sort of from the youngest. All right.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
From the day I leave the hospital with my newborn, where is what's the rule that it says for newborns?
So from birth to 2 years, we're going to be in an infant car seat, rear facing. You want to stay rear facing in that infant car seat until the child reaches the maximum weight or height of that car seat. So there's not a set number. Right. Every car seat's different. It's not a one size fits all. I'm going to say that over and over again. Every car is different. Every child restraint is different. Every kid is different. Okay. So from birth to age 2, we want to stay rear facing in that infant seat until the maximum weight requirement on that seat.
Was that before it was it? It wasn't 2 years old before, was it? I think didn't the age change or no? Or has that always been the rule with that one?
I believe the old law was just the age and not a weight
not
or
the
height.
Weight. Okay.
Right. And so what we really encourage people is to read their labels, read the manuals on their seats to see what's the maximum weight or height for that seat in the rear facing position.
Okay.
So the next step is after 2 years old, most folks think, okay, my kid is 2, it's time to go forward facing.
Right. Yeah, front facing.
Right? We really don't encourage that. And this law actually helps us explain that when you are 2 years old, you may have already moved to what's called a convertible seat, which is a rear-facing seat that converts to a forward-facing seat, right? But we want to make sure that you stay rear-facing as long as possible. So even though you are 2 years old, maybe that rear-facing convertible says to stay rear-facing up to 50 pounds. Okay, so we're going to stay rear-facing up to the maximum weight or height requirement on that particular seat. Now again, it's not a one-size-fits-all, so
Yeah.
read your manuals, read the labels on your seat to see what the requirements are.
Which is, I mean, and I'm just thinking as a parent of a 2-year-old right now, it's such a hard. That's such a hard decision. I mean, it's not hard because it's the safety regulations, it's the law, but it's so hard, especially like if you're driving and you have that temptation, you like need to reach back and interact with the child.
Right.
They're rear facing, and
Right.
now they're 2-year-olds, and they have attitudes, and they talk, and they ask for things, and you're like, just
They definitely have
that changes the game for a lot of parents in a way.
So let me explain it like this. Normally, for adults, right, when you transition to something new, it's normally a good thing, right? We're transitioning, we're moving up or whatever. When it comes to car seats, every time you transition from a different seating position as the child gets larger, it really becomes less and less safe for that child. They have less protection, excuse me. So the longer you can keep them rear facing, the better. Most car accidents are frontal accidents. And so if we have a child who's rear facing in their seat, and that impact, what happens is the seat kind of cradles them in and they ride out that impact.
Right.
And so there's less injuries. Whereas in that same frontal car wreck, if you have a child in a forward-facing seat, they may get more injuries to their neck, their spine, things that are still developing. And so that's why it's very important that you don't go forward-facing until they meet those requirements, when we know that they've developed more and their body can handle it.
So my child, for example, she's just about almost 3 feet. I'd say is 35 pounds now. She's definitely no lightweight. And we have her front facing and she's in the middle. So what you're saying is I should probably turn her back around. And you know what's funny is that my wife and I, we were trying to figure out when to turn her around. And as she grew, she just seemed like it was uncomfortable because she was in the way her knees were always
Right.
bent. And
yeah,
so
against the back. Yeah,
yeah,
same.
so
Yeah.
I think for a lot of parents, that's their trigger to say, oh, we need to turn them around, but that's probably not always the case.
It's never the case.
Wow.
So look, if you're rear facing and your child's legs are long and their feet are touching the back seat, that's okay. It does not mean that they outgrow the seat. They can bend their legs, they can cross their legs, they can put their feet all over your back seat. I know you don't want to hear that, right? Dirty shoes all over the seat.
Right, yeah.
Get your
But-
shoes off my seat.
But that does not mean that they outgrew the seat, okay? If they are still within that weight requirement and they have not met the height requirement of that seat, in most seats, if there is less than 1 inch from the top of the child's head to the top of the seat, then they've outgrown the seat no matter what the weight requirement is. But when we're talking about their long legs and their feet touching the seat, that's okay. They can
That is
they
interesting.
can bend their knees, they can cross their legs, and that's completely fine. Because I mean, let's face it, if you're in a wreck and maybe they fracture a bone in their foot or their leg, right? Broken
Right.
bones heal. We can
Right.
fix that. Okay? It's way more serious when you have them forward facing in that same wreck and they have some sort of spine injury or neck injury where they have long lasting
Yeah.
effects from that wreck.
Now, I was reading on the Department of Transportation, just the numbers or the percentages on the car seat, and it was saying that under 1-year-old car seats reduce the risk of infants being killed in car crashes by 71%, and for toddlers, that reduction in risk is 54%, which is a huge number.
It is a huge number.
As a first responder who is on the scene of these car wrecks when they happen, how does that translate to what you actually see? Does that sound about right to what you see and the unfortunate incidents where people don't have their kids either in a car seat or restrained properly?
Right. No, that sounds about right. And let me throw another statistic at you. There's about a 90% misuse rate nationwide with car seats.
Wow.
And so the reason we have these injuries is because I see, or really all of us first responders, not just EMS, but a lot of police officers and state troopers that also do a lot of work on our roadways. We see a lot of seats that are improperly installed. Some seats are maybe the wrong seat for that child, or installed the wrong way for that car. And sometimes we see children who are just completely unrestrained or not in a seat at all. And so again, when it comes back to this, there's not a one size fits all. That's why we have fitting stations throughout the region with certified child passenger safety technicians who can recognize different hazards immediately when people come in with car seats that are not properly installed, and then we're able to guide folks and teach parents and guardians the proper way to install their seats, make sure that their child is properly harnessed in the seat, and that they know the next steps as well as the child grows older.
And what you're talking about is with the Louisiana Passenger Safety Task Force?
Correct.
Talk a little bit about that, and the people that are working with that and the technicians that are working with that are actually certified in these child safety restraints.
Correct. So we have our child passenger safety technicians in the state of Louisiana. We have hundreds of them.
Oh, cool.
And every region has a set of fitting stations throughout the area. New Orleans EMS is one of our fitting stations here in the city. We've been doing car seats here for, let's say, 3 or 4 years now. It might be a little bit longer than that. And every fitting station we have folks come in. So it's definitely a great tool to utilize. If you can't make it to one of our fitting stations, I can give you the website to look up to find all of the fitting stations in the area and the contact information to go to a regular fitting station, or to make an appointment if it's inconvenient to make it to one of their scheduled fitting stations. All of our technicians go through a 40-hour course. When I first heard about this course, I'm thinking, what am I going to learn?
40 hours.
40 hours.
You're like,
And-
man, I graduated from school
Right.
already. Jeez.
And guys, this class, it's intense, but you learn so much about different cars, different types of seatbelts, and different types of retractors and buckles, and then we go over all of the different seats, from infant to booster and getting into a seatbelt, there's a lot to it. There really is.
Patty Doe, what's up, Patty, is asking, is
Hi,
there
Patty.
a fee for this if you want to come in and have somebody look at their car seat
Right.
or help install a car seat?
No, it's a great question. This is no cost. Absolutely free, no fee. Come on by to any one of our fitting stations or make an appointment with one of our fitting stations, and there's no cost at all to have your seat checked.
You hear that, Patty? Free of charge.
Free of
Check
charge,
it out.
Patty.
Now,
So
let me ask you this: how often should a parent go to one of the stations? I mean, should we just check every year, or or whenever we feel as if our baby's growing, should we just kind of check
Right.
in and say, okay, am I doing this right?
So for new parents, I encourage you to come by before baby's born and have your infant seat and base installed or fitted. I always tell parents after the baby's born, if they, are unsure or anything like that, or they they want to come back, please come back. And I've had parents come back the next week because now we have a brand new baby, and we
Right.
want to just double check to make sure that a child is harnessed correctly.
Mhm.
So not only do we check to make sure that the seat or the restraint is attached to your car, right? We also want to make sure that the harness is correct. Depending on which way you face in the seat and the size of the child
Mhm.
determines where we put that harness. I know you'll probably see on a lot of seats there's little slots,
Mhm.
and there's different ways to adjust that harness. And so we educate the parent how to find which slot to use for their harness. And so it's kind of hard to do when the baby's not here yet.
Right.
So we encourage you to come before baby's born, right? So we can get it installed in the car. And you can safely transport the child home from the hospital. And then if you feel like you need to, come back.
Mhm.
Come back and let's double check just to be sure, so mom and dad feel comfortable that the new baby is in the seat correctly or
Can we
harnessed
just show
correctly.
up, or do we have to make an appointment most times?
So you'll have to go to our website. You can search Buckle Up Louisiana. It's a Facebook page.
Okay.
So Buckle Up Louisiana. And in there you'll see lots of information about our car seat fitting stations, the new laws, and all sorts of other really important details about riding safely in the car. But one of the things you'll find there is a list of all of our car seat fitting stations, not only in Region B, where New Orleans, but also across the entire state of Louisiana.
Yeah, I was looking at the list. There's
Yeah.
a lot of fitting stations.
Yeah.
I'm
but-
gonna spell Louisiana wrong.
Oh no!
We have another.
Don't
we have
send
ano-
them somewhere else.
We have another question. It's actually my brother Yates sold it, and he has an infant, my niece, and he's asking, is a base necessary? Because I know in mine back there, it's got
Right.
the click-in base.
Right.
But I know there are some parents that don't even use the base.
Right.
They'll just do the. So is a base necessary?
So that's
with
a
the
great
infant?
question. So most infant car seats come with a base.
Mhm.
You have the base that stays in your car, and then the carrier clicks in and out.
Right.
Now, you can safely put the carrier in a car without the base.
I hear a but.
Well, no, there's not a but.
No but.
Well,
okay.
the but is you need to look at your manual that came with the car seat, because they're all going to be different. One size doesn't fit all. Okay, so
I've done it before, but I've always felt as if without the base, when we had an infant seat, I felt like it still moved
It was
a
sloshy.
little bit.
Yeah.
When I think I went to the state police, and she said that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just you want to make sure it doesn't move too much.
Right.
I mean, seats are leather. It's hard for it to stick. But I did have that question too. Like,
Yeah.
is the
So
base
this
seems to
is
be much
for
better.
example, let's say you have your seat in a base, and you get an Uber or a taxi,
Mhm.
right?
Perfect example.
You're not going to pull the base out of your car and put it in this taxi, but you can still install the carrier safely with the seat belt in that car. Now, it's kind of tricky. So I recommend that you either consult a child passenger safety technician, bring your carrier with you, or read your manual, or really both, just to be sure, because it is tricky trying to install that with the seat belt without the base. Now, there are seats that don't have a base, right? So you have, again, I mentioned them earlier, convertible seats. It's a rear-facing seat that converts to a forward-facing seat. Those rear-facing convertibles are normally just one solid piece, so there's not a base, right? So in that instance, you don't have a base.
Right. So,
Got it.
and just a quick note too. The good thing about a lot of these companies is if you don't have the manual, as he mentioned, you can go to their website or you could Google it,
Yep.
and a lot of
Yep.
times it's PDF'd on the. I've done it before
Right.
for several times, so that information is out there. I don't know is not an excuse. is
So
I
what
would
you can
say.
do is you can actually look on the bottom of your seat, and on the bottom of the seat you'll find a little sticker, or it might be embossed on the bottom of the seat as well, and it's going to have a lot of special numbers on there, your model number, your serial number, the date that the seat was manufactured. That's what you want to reference when you request a manual online. You don't want to just Google rear-facing seat manual because
Yeah.
you're probably not going to get what you're looking for.
That's right.
So make sure that you use the right model number so that you get the accurate information. Going back to when else shall we get our seat checked? Obviously, whenever you transition to a new seating position or a new seat, you should always try and come back to a fitting station to have your seat looked at, and have us educate you as well as we can
I'm
on
definitely
that
overdue
seat
for a checkup. I
and
know.
on.
I'm gonna get mine today after we finish this.
Yeah, please.
But okay, so I have a question for new dads, new parents out
Right.
there, and I can just think back to when Toys R Us existed. R.I.P. Toys R Us.
I heard they're coming back.
They might come back. There is a
I hope
a
so.
push to get them back by Christmas.
I
There
hope
is.
Wow, that would be nice.
That would
But
be.
I can just remember when myself and my wife were in Toys R Us,
Right.
Babies R Us, Target, going down the rows of car seats and on Amazon and looking, and
Yeah, man.
is there kind of, I don't want to say like hard set rules, but are there just some basic tips for new parents when they're looking at car
Yeah.
seats of like what they should be looking
Right.
for?
Well, I'll tell you right now, anything you see on the shelf at Toys R Us or any other of these stores, every single seat goes through the same test. Okay? So every single seat is safe. What you may be paying more money for are just extra bells and whistles, right? Dual cup holders or extra padding to make the child maybe a little bit more comfortable. But
Right.
every single seat has gone through the same inspection
So
and the same
price,
safety testing.
price does not equate safety.
Correct.
I like it. That's a very good question.
That's easy. Because, I mean, I remember us being in there and looking, and in my mind, I was like, well, if it's cheaper, then maybe it's not as safe. Maybe
Right.
we should go a little bit higher end.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the case.
They all go through the same crash test.
So talk about this. Now, this is something that was brought to me. I remember when I first got the infant seat installed.
Uh-huh.
I had this pink cover for it, this pink cushion cover,
Uh-huh.
and the trooper at the time was like, "Don't put that on the seat." I'm like, "Yo, it's new, it's washed," and she's like, "That's not what I'm saying." She's like, "These things are built to certain manufacturer and safety specifications.
Right.
Anything additional can possibly take away from that." So talk about people who may have like the
Yeah.
the little thing hanging off the middle of the bar or
Sure.
something like that. Like these things are considered hazards.
The
basically.
aftermarket accessories.
All of the aftermarket
Thank you for the,
accessories.
Yeah.
the educated
No, that's it
version
right
of
there.
it.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
So look, so what the trooper was referring to was additional padding, right? When you get your seat, it may have padding on it behind the child, on the side of the child's head, or maybe on the harness, right? That's fine. If it came with the seat out of the box, awesome, right? You can use that. What he's referring to is adding any additional padding. We do not find it very safe to add additional padding to this seat. Now, why? It wasn't crash tested that way. Our manufacturer is going to tell you the same thing. The manufacturer won't guarantee that it's safe for your child
Right.
because they can't say that their seat with XYZ pad in it is going to work, right? So it's not best practice to
Wow.
ever add any additional padding to your seat. Now, the only exception is, let's say you have an infant, right, and they've got their big wobbly head, right?
Right.
What you can actually do is you can take maybe like a dish towel or something and roll it up, and you can put it around the side of their head to kind of keep their head stabilized, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to put anything behind their head. Okay, so that's really the only exception with adding any kind of padding. But again, we're not putting padding behind the child, and we're not putting any padding on the harness, because that really does make a difference. Now, when it comes to dangling little toys on the carrier handle, right, to keep our children entertained in the car,
Yeah.
again, we don't recommend that. In a car wreck, and I'm talking even like 30 miles an hour, all right, the impacts, the forces are so incredibly strong that these toys will snap right off. The Velcro will break, the little plastic carabiner clips will break, and where do they go? Straight into the baby's face. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They become projectiles in that car. Same thing with mirrors on the headrest. A lot of parents,
Oh,
right?
man.
I'm sorry.
I'm glad you brought that up, 'cause
I'm glad.
No, I just pulled it out the other day.
but let
I was
me
like, oh,
explain.
I need this.
I'm against it. I never
Oh
liked
man.
A lot of these mirrors, right? They attach with a beanbag or a shoestring
Yeah.
or
Mine doesn't
Velcro,
even touch it.
right?
It just has this like, there's the headrest, and then it just kind of like
Yeah.
clips over the
Oh,
back, so it's
man.
not really even attached.
And in an impact, that comes right off, and again,
Oh,
it's
I didn't
right
even
in
think
front of
about
the
that.
child's face.
Oh, I forgot the
So,
question.
Yeah.
so keep that in mind. But really, any projectiles in the car. If you keep an umbrella on the back window, or if you have a stroller in the back of your SUV, right, in a rollover crash, that stroller's going all over the inside cabin.
I did
That's
not even
me.
think
So,
about that. Yeah.
I pack all kind of stuff in the bag, man. Everything, half her room
Yeah.
is in
No,
the
for real.
bag.
I saw Antoine's car today.
He saw
I
it,
saw
yeah.
it. I saw it earlier today.
I'm
It's
like-
a mess.
I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get shunned.
so you got to clean that out. son.
So keep that in mind. You want to take all those projectiles out. Shoes on the ground, your gym bag in the back seat. That's
I
a
keep
projectile
my
in
gym
a
bag in the
rollover.
car.
Okay, so try and figure out either a way to get it out of the car or a way to secure it so it doesn't go flying everywhere.
I know their recommendation to me was if those covers that it's like we have an
Like a
extra
cargo
thing.
net.
Yeah, the cargo like that can help it.
You're right.
But that's the same thing she told me. She's like,
Yeah.
It was Melissa Mady. You remember Melissa?
I remember Melissa.
Yeah, she had,
Hey, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Melissa, well, she had like triplets, I think.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
went from nothing to
Right?
3.
Yeah,
Just.
yeah.
And I remember seeing her, and I was like, "Oh, congratulations! What's it? What do you know what it is?" She was like, "Yeah, it's triplets." I was like,
I was like, no, not the name.
I was
Like,
like,
what did you have?
oh,
It's like, no,
no,
3.
it's triplets. It
Oh,
doesn't
right.
matter. It's 3.
But yeah, that was her thing. She's like, try to cover it. That's the best she could. But
Yeah.
she was gonna put me in a chokehold. if I
So,
didn't get that
so my
stuff.
wife just chimed in and has a question that I've had since the beginning.
Okay.
Winter, and I know it's 90 degrees outside, and we're not even thinking about winter right now. But winter coats.
Yeah.
Do we take them off when we put them in the seat, or do we leave them on when we put them
Oh,
in the
this is a
seat?
great question.
Or there's the old school parents that have their opinion, and then there's like the new school us who Google everything.
the
and,
millenniums, as they call them.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
we-
okay, so just
Wha-
this kind of goes back to adding additional padding, right?
Okay.
So, yes, the answer is yes. Remove the jacket.
Ooh.
If you have a big poofy jacket on the child, remove the big poofy jacket, harness them in tightly, and then what you can do is you can layer the jacket on top of them or layer the blanket on top of them. You may think that even with that jacket on, the harness is on really tight, but that's an extra layer, and some of these jackets will just slide around right with that harness,
yep.
and the child could slide right out of the harness. And so the safest thing to do is to remove big poofy jackets, harness the child in, and then either lay a blanket or lay the jacket over the child. That was a great question,
I
actually.
have a really good question.
Uh-oh.
This is for parents with older children.
Right.
Okay, let's
Yep.
say my son or daughter is 10 or 9 years old, has an iPad. So we get the behind the seat table
Uh-huh.
to put the iPad on. I saw this on Instagram. And I
I've
was
never
like-
seen one of these. I don't know what you're talking about. So.
I was like, oh, this is a great idea.
It's like a
Yeah,
TV
yeah,
tray for the car?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can put it over the back of the seat of the front
The
seat.
passenger seat,
Okay.
or the
I see what you're saying.
and then you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
slide it in.
Yeah, and it basically folds out like a table. You could put stuff on
Kind of like
it.
an airplane?
Base, yes.
Okay,
that would
alright.
essentially be it. Are there, and I can show you as well, but are there any rules against anything like that, or is that just considered another accessory that could be?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I've never seen these before, but just from the way you're describing it, I mean, I would imagine no. It's not safe to have, right? Even if they have the iPad in their hands, right? That becomes a projectile. So keep that in mind, right? How would you like to get struck in the face with an iPod?
His whole car ride.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we just went on a road trip and an iPad was
But look,
necessary.
when you are shopping around for things like this, the mirrors or the iPad table or whatever, do some research, because there's actually a couple of car seat manufacturers that are beginning to make the mirrors. Right, and so there's some that say that they are crash tested. So do a little bit of research, because you may be able, if you really, really, really have to have one, you could probably find something that's made by a car seat manufacturer that's crash tested.
Okay, sticking with the road trip theme that has arisen. Someone is asking, if you're going on a long road trip, how long before you should give a kid a break from the car seat? Is there like a limit on how long they should be in the car seat?
I can't answer that question. I'm gonna have to do some research and get back to you.
Okay,
but
I hadn't even thought about that.
That is a good question. Yeah, how many hours can you keep them in the seat in the back of the car before it's time to get out and stretch? Right?
Yeah, and then
I get it.
The other one that I'm sure. Oh yeah, that's it.
That's
oh wow,
nice. That's a whole entertainment system.
Wow.
You got the cup holder, the Kleenex holder.
Oh wow.
The snack box.
Now that you said projectile, all I see is projectile.
Yeah, all you see is the lip.
Projectile.
Look at that big old coffee mug.
Projectile.
Two coffee mugs.
Those are torpedoes.
Let's see if I can.
Both of those are torpedoes.
See if
They came
if
up.
they can see it. I mean, like, there you go. There's like, you see that thing right there? That's a whole living room right there.
But sticking with
car.
the well, not road trippy, but I know when our daughter was an infant and she would fall asleep in the car seat, we would take the car seat out of the car, bring it in the house, and not touch her, and just let her sleep in the car seat.
Ooh.
Is that bad?
So, all right. Let me start with this. On most car seats, and again, you're going to have to refer to your manual and your labels for your specific car seat, right? But on most car seats, when you're in any position, there's going to be a recline angle that you want to make sure that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Some car seats have like little levels, bubble levels. Some car seats have a little rolly ball in there. Some car seats may have a red arrow or an embossed line that says this needs to be level with the ground, right? So read your manual and see which one you have to make sure that your seat is at the right recline. Now, the reason we want to make sure your seat is at the right recline, as I mentioned earlier, most car accidents are frontal. Okay, so if we have a rear-facing seat and we have the child in a rear-facing seat and they get into a frontal accident, they get cradled in, they ride out that impact, right? Which is great. It worked. If the seat is at the wrong recline, let's say it's tilted too forward, what could happen is they can actually slide up some, right? And we don't want them to slide up some and potentially be injured because they're in the wrong recline. If they're reclined too far forward, what could happen is their head could fall forward and it could block their airway. So it's very important to make sure that your seat is at the right recline angle.
Got it. Okay.
And once it is in your car, it's super safe, okay? When you take it out of your car and you place it on the floor, it may not be at that same recline angle that we saw in your car, right?
Got
and
it.
so
Okay.
that's why it's really best practice that when you get home, don't leave the child in the seat on the floor, because they could fall forward and block their airway.
So I'm getting yelled at right now by my wife in the
I'm
comments.
sorry.
Capital letters, we never did that. And then under that, I never did that. So I have to correct and say I would do that. If it
Right.
was just me, I didn't want to touch
you're
her
already
and
in
wake her up.
trouble.
Right. No, I'm gonna.
You're in trouble.
I'm
funny.
in big trouble.
Here's-
But I'm glad I asked anyway.
No,
Because
that was a great
I was
question.
gonna do it again with the second one, but not now. I was like, oh, they're sleep.
Remember I asked you
let a
last week,
sleeping
I
dog
said, what
lie.
would you do different? You're like, not much. I retract that statement. No, here's a good question. We kind of touched on this. And is there a difference between car seat in the middle versus passenger side?
Ooh, yeah. All right, so a lot of people always ask, where's the safest spot for my child? Obviously, the center of your car is going to be the safest. That's the safest for anyone to be, right? Because you're furthest away from any impact.
See, so if you don't want to ride in the middle, adults, you're not in the safe zone. So
Right.
now I'm in the middle.
Yeah. It's definitely the safest to stay in the middle because you're furthest away from any impacts. Now, that being said, again, most car wrecks are frontal, okay? And so it's not a bad thing if you want to install your seat on, one of the passenger side or the driver's side and not the middle. In fact, I have installed many seats in the rear passenger side because if you, let's say you do a lot of street parking, that's the sidewalk side of the car, so you can quickly get the child in and out. And for anyone that had to get a child in and out of a car, sometimes it's a pain in the butt to crawl
Yes.
inside the car
Yes.
when you could just stand right next to the car, right?
Yes.
So keep all that in mind when you're deciding where to place your seat. But if you want to go for the safest, and it's always going to be the middle. Okay.
Even if you
I'm
have,
glad you asked that question.
even if you
Yeah.
have a two-seater, let's say hypothetically, you got a two-seat vehicle and you got to put them in the front. Is the middle still safest versus that other seat?
A two-seater? Are we talking about like a Mazda
long-
Miata two-seater?
Okay, yes. What's the rules against like two-seat cars? Like a Nissan
Or a pickup
Or a
truck?
pickup
or a
truck.
pickup
Yeah.
truck,
Yeah.
or like a 350Z or something like. What are the rules with that?
So you want to, number one, get the owner's manual for that vehicle. So get the owner's manual for your Mazda Miata or your pickup truck, and you want to read it and see what it says. Most of the time, you're going to find something in there that tells you how to safely install a car seat in the front.
Very cool.
If that car has an airbag, more than likely there's going to be directions on there how to disengage the airbags as well. But I really can't say what to do. It's because I'll do the same thing when someone pulls up to our fitting station with a little two-seater or something like that. I'm going to ask for their manual. I want to look at their manual and see what it says, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. I've said it many times already this morning. It's going to be different from a pickup truck with a backseat. It might even be the same brand, right? So refer to your owner's manual every single time, and also refer to the owner's manual for that car seat, just to make sure that there's no conflicting information. Does that make sense?
Very
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good stuff.
Oh man, I'm trying to think now that we've gone through like the facts and the stats, and now I'm trying to think of like all the things that I possibly did wrong.
Man, I still question.
Currently doing wrong.
I question my car seat situation now. I told you, I know there's a belt twisted in there somewhere, and it's secure, but I need to.
Well, you don't want any twisted belts.
Right.
You don't want any twisted belts when you're installing the seat with the lower anchors or with your seat belt, and you also don't want any twisted belts on the harness. So
Do you have to use the harness, or is it just encouraged?
the harness, the part
The
that
one that latches on the back of the back seat.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're referring to to latch, right? So
latch,
that's
sorry, yeah.
lower anchors and tethers for children.
Okay.
So when you're rear facing, and again this varies seat by seat, you have different ways to install that seat. You can either install the seat using the lower anchors, which are the ones that clip in underneath your seat, or you can install it with your seat belt. One's not better than the other. One's not safer than the other. We do not encourage that you do both, right? You think if I do both,
Really?
it's going to be super safe. What happens is when you
I
use
used to do both.
when you do both, what you're doing is you're adding extra stress on the system, and it could fail. Okay, so never do both. You want to follow the directions in the manual for your car seat and follow the directions in the manual for your automobile, for your car. After a certain year, all cars are required to have lower anchor positions in at least 2 seating spots. Okay, so that may mean in your specific car you might not be able to use those lower anchors in the middle position, but you could still put a seat there. You just may have to use the seat belt. So always refer to your manual in your car and the manual for the seat to be sure that you're doing it correctly. Now, you mentioned the part that goes over the back of the seat. So that's called the tether. All right, and the tether is only used when you're forward facing. Again, you want to refer to your car seat manual to make sure that it has a tether and that you're supposed to use a tether, right? And what the tether does is it actually buckles in behind the seat only when you're forward facing, and what it does is it prevents forward movement of the head of the car seat. It's a pretty cool tool.
Yeah, I have both. I have the lower anchors and the tether.
Right.
So this whole time, he's just saying things that I've been doing.
Oh,
wrong,
no, I'm sorry.
Using all the
Many
but I'm glad we're having the
violations.
conversation because I feel like it goes back to the stat you're talking about that like
Right.
above 90% of car seats are installed incorrectly.
Right.
When you come in, I mean, the questions we're throwing at you, are these new questions to you, or are these just these things you see every day
Every
when you have
day.
people come in?
Every day. And just to throw it out again for new viewers, you can search Buckle Up Louisiana on Facebook, and you can find a list of all of our fitting stations throughout the state of Louisiana, including here in Region B in the New Orleans area. We have several places where you can either make an appointment for a fitting station, or some of us actually have regularly scheduled fitting stations on a weekly or monthly basis. But yeah, a lot of these questions are things that we get every time we have a fitting station.
Do you have a sort of, is there like an annual fitting event that the city holds or that EMS may hold, or is there, or do you say, okay, do you have a day that goes to?
So there's national. I'm gonna mess this up and I'm gonna get in trouble.
No, I
it's
got you.
National. Not national.
National Seat Check Saturday?
Seat Check Saturday. That's September 21st, right?
You got
Okay, yeah, September 21st, Seat Check Saturday. But then the entire week beforehand is National Seat Check Week. Okay, so you probably see lots of things throughout the state and throughout the country, really, regarding
back. You'll see us
child
there.
passenger safety.
Okay.
So refer to Buckle Up Louisiana for the event here in Region B. I don't think it's been released yet. So
First time
Yeah.
time
And
here.
I'm
That's cool.
hoping this task force and like this, what you guys are doing with these seat checks is not unique to Louisiana. Is this something that you know of that exists in other states across the country?
yes, all of the technicians go through the same training, and so we all follow the same standards. We all use the same type of fitting summaries that you'll see at your fitting stations. So yeah, it's a universal thing across the nation with all of our child passenger safety technicians.
Awesome. Well, I think
I've learned a lot.
I've learned a ton. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about this. Was there something else you wanted to
We didn't talk about boosters too much.
Oh, boosters.
This is really
Because we
this
haven't
is
gotten to that point
Yeah,
yet.
this is
boosters.
right.
It's
Yeah.
like-
So all right, we talked about birth to 2 years.
Yep.
We're going to be in that infant seat, rear facing, for the maximum weight requirement on that seat.
Right.
Read the labels, read the manual. Okay. After 2 years, you may be in what's called a convertible seat. Now, don't go to your convertible seat now if you haven't reached the maximum weight requirement in your infant seat. Okay. But we're going to go to convertible seat.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, remember, convertible seat is a rear-facing seat that converts to a forward-facing seat.
Right.
Okay.
That's where we are.
This is where I see a lot of mistakes. Parents will look at the labels and they'll see one label that says rear-facing
Mhm.
and one label that says forward-facing. Okay. And the rear-facing label will say, actually, you know what? I've got one right here. So our rear-facing label will say, I'll just read it out loud. Use rear-facing 5 to 40 pounds. use forward facing 22 to 65 pounds.
I'm confused.
Exactly. We have a large window where, hey, my child can do either, okay? And so that's where this new law goes into place. The new law states that you have to use this convertible seat rear facing to the maximum weight capacity or height, okay?
Whatever comes first.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. So stay rear facing in this seat up to 40 pounds. Okay.
So ignore the
you're-
gap.
Even if your child is older than 2.
Anya, get ready.
Ugh.
It's about to be rough.
Okay.
Hey, you know what? This brings in my
And that's just an example
Sister,
for this
yeah.
one seat.
that brings
You're
my
go-
sister in. My sister is just very short in stature. She has been like 5 foot nothing forever. She didn't grow, and she was in a booster seat till she drove. I swear to you, she used to have to sit on. She had a beetle, and she used to have to sit on 2 couch pillows.
Oh, I thought you were
so
going to
that
tell
she
me it was
could-
the Yellow Pages or something.
If
Good old
they still
days.
exist, if they still exist, she used to have to sit on 2 pillows to be able to see over the dash of the beetle.
All right. So next step.
Next step.
All right. When the child is 4 years old and they've outgrown that forward-facing height or weight requirement. So remember, there's also going to be a forward-facing height or weight requirement. Once they've reached that, then they can go to a booster. Okay. Now, we're going to see kids in boosters for a lot older now because of these because of these laws. But that's a good thing. The laws are here to protect the children. Okay. And again, these are the same standards that you've been hearing from your pediatricians since 2011.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's just the law says the same thing, right? At 9 years old, the child is eligible to get out of the booster, but they have to pass what we call the 5-step test. Okay, I'm going to read this to you so I don't mess this up, because you have to meet all 5 requirements. Okay, so number 1, the child sits all the way back against the vehicle seat. Number 2, the child's knees bend over the edge of the vehicle seat. Number 3, the lap belt fits snugly across the child's thighs or lower hips and not on the abdomen or the belly. Okay. Number 4, the shoulder strap snugly crosses the center of the child's chest and not over the child's neck. And number 5, the child can sit properly with no slouching or playing with the seatbelt. Right. So they have to be mature enough to sit up straight. So if they pass all 5 of those questions, and they are at least 9 years old, then they are eligible to get into a booster.
Whew,
So I'm a ways away from.
I'm sorry, get out of a
Same,
booster. Excuse
yeah,
me.
same.
I'm
Yeah, get out of a
ways away
booster.
from that.
I probably need to be in a booster.
So, but the reason we use boosters, okay, because it does exactly that. It boosts you up. So if you have a child who is too small and you sit them in the seat and you put the seatbelt over them, right? The lap belt, instead of going over their lap, goes over their belly.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into one of those car wrecks, what happens is that lap belt goes into their belly, into their abdomen. We have all sorts of soft organs in there that will get damaged in a car wreck. And so that's why it's very important to have that lap belt over your lap, so that you have your hips or your pelvis, right? That bone that'll keep you in the right spot in the seat. Same thing with the shoulder harness. I mean the shoulder strap of the seatbelt. You don't want it over your neck, obviously. You want it over your chest. We've got our ribs here that keep all of our soft organs protected as well.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to make sure that you're boosted up so that the lap belt's over your lap, not over your belly, and that the shoulder belt is over your chest and not over your neck. That's the whole purpose of the booster, and that's why we have that law in effect. And it's very important that parents don't let their children get in the car and put that shoulder belt behind their back.
I used to do that.
Okay.
I was bad about that.
Because
I
what
didn't
happens
wanna-
then
yeah.
is when you get into that accident, your body kind of just folds in half, okay? And lots of really serious injuries can happen when you're not using your shoulder strap. And that goes for adults too. Adults too should all, if there's a shoulder strap, wear the shoulder strap. That's
Yeah.
why it's there.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you taking the time just to talk to us about this. The amount of questions we had, and we have 2-year-olds,
Right.
means this is definitely something that needs to be talked about more. Really quick, just you guys' information, website, where people can find this information.
Sure.
Or find information about where to go to an install center.
Sure.
Or an install spot.
All right, so once again, search Buckle Up Louisiana. They have a Facebook page. On that Facebook page, you'll find all sorts of really great information about kids riding safe in the car. You'll also find on Buckle Up Louisiana all of the fitting stations in the entire state of Louisiana. You'll find contact information. You'll find days that the fitting stations are open. So everything you need to know about the fitting stations are on Buckle Up Louisiana. I mentioned that there are several technicians throughout the area. If you're interested in becoming a child passenger safety technician, there is a class coming up in September. Go to umcno.org/injury prevention, and there should be a link on that, the page that it leads you to find more information about how to become a child passenger safety technician. It's a great class. I've learned a lot, and I've made lots of great friends, other technicians throughout the years doing what I do. I really enjoy it.
Well, we really appreciate you
Thank
taking
you.
the time to talk to us, doing what you do as a person with EMS and with the child safety stuff.
Thank you.
We will put all these links here so that you can get a hold of them. Yeah, and if you guys have any more questions, we will answer them.
Yeah.
So we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.